Hey, what's up, comrades? On to Fairy Tale Volume 9. So we had like, share, comment, and like, share, comment. Yeah. Here we go. So we pick up with, what's it called? Fairy Light. And we get some great shots of everyone being amazed, the shadows all going away, and Jose's just, he's done. He's tapped out. And everyone's like, Nani desu ka? And Ursa has a really funny look on her face, and she's like, it's fairy law. What is fairy law? Fairy law is something that damages everyone in the vicinity that is seen as an enemy of the person casting it. So Makarov decimated everybody except the air guy for some reason. I guess he didn't think that he was there or something. Anyway, that guy flies out of the wall to steal Makarov's magic again, and Makarov uses his Fantastic Four powers to knock him the fuck out and says, grab Jose and get out of here. I never want to see you people again. And so they go, and then everyone cheers, and Lucy shows up, and everyone's happy, and they're asking about Natsu, and she says something about Natsu having to take care of something, and that thing Natsu needs to take care of is Gajil. So him and Gajil are laying there, barely able to move, and they start talking about being dragon slayers, and I think the dragon Metallicana is the dragon that raised Gajil with the steel dragon, and then they get into a conversation about how Gajil's dragon disappeared 7 years ago, and then Natsu's like, wait, 7 years ago, on the 7th day of the 7th month? So 777. And he's like, yeah, why? Did you have something to do with it? It's like, no, my dragon vanished at the same time. What? That's crazy. And then, then Gajil's like, and then Natsu's like, you better get out of here. And Gajil's like, this is my guild. You should get out of here. And then Natsu's like, something, we should be friends. And Gajil's like, I hate you, next time we'll fight. And then Natsu's like, all right, whatever. And then Gajil's like, all right, now we're going to be friends forever. Lucy looks really sad hippopotamus because, she feels like she did all this stuff. And then Levy-chan shows up with her team, and they're all like, no, Lucy, it's, it is what it is. And everyone's, someone has like a conversation about how, I think it's Makarov says like, we're happy together, we're sad together, we're angry together, we're a guild. That's how we function. And we get nice shots of everybody, including Mistajin. And then Lucy starts crying, and Levy comes up to hug her, and people are laughing and thinking, and then Makarov's like, oh, the guild's gonna be so pissed, like the council, I mean, and he starts crying. So what was it? A week later, the guild's been rebuilding their guild when what are these people called? The Rune Knights show up, and the Rune Knights come to investigate what's going on, and they interview everybody for days on end for like an entire week. And then Lucy's writing to her mom in a room, and we get some nice fan service because she is dope as fuck. I would love it if they did a fairy tale collab with Nikkei, I'm not gonna lie. But she's got a bruise on her stomach, and then she's just thinking, and we get like a very interesting shot. Like we see her, she hears some cheeping, and she goes and looks, and it's a mother bird feeding a baby bird, and then she looks pretty sad. And then she's thinking about her dad, and one year she went and was like, Daddy, I made you a rice ball. And he's like, get the fuck out of here, I don't have time for this bullshit. And she's like, I just want to tell you something. And he's like, get the fuck out. And she's like out crying, and she's like, today's my birthday. Rough. That was sad. Anyway, she's writing these letters, and you get the hint that rightfully so, hopefully at this point, that like the mom's not around. So she's just writing letters for herself. We then head over to the rebuilding site, and Natsu and Gray are going at each other, and we see Juvia just kind of hanging out, hiding, and looking at Gray. And at some point, she deposits like a bento box in his hands, and she's like, "Where'd this come from?" And then Natsu's, "You better not eat it." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna eat some strange thing that came out of nowhere." And then Natsu's like, "I'll eat it." And he's like, "Yeah, here you go." And then Juvia's like very sad eponymous about it. We also see some other funny stuff going on. It's pretty humorous. Loki shows up, and he's like, hey, I got Lucy's keys. Can you take them to her? And like, why don't you take them to her? And he's like, no, I'm too busy. And then he like pieces out. So Natsu's like, hey, whatever, let's go. So him, Gray, and Ursa head off to Lucy's place, and it's empty. They then find all the letters that were supposed to go to her mom. Yep, she's not sending any of them, and because she's dead, we'll get there. But Ursa finds a note that says, I'm going home. So then the crew freaks out, and we end chapter 67 with Lucy heading home on a train. Hold on. Excuse me. Okay. So Lucy gets home, the Heartfilia estate, and we spend the first portion of this section just, it's super adorbs. It's all like the people that miss Lucy, and oh, miss Lucy, and miss Lucy this, and miss Lucy that, and then like, oh, your dad's summoning you. So her like lady in waiting takes her to like get her dressed up in this really fancy dress, and she goes to talk to her dad, and he like chides her, and she's like, sorry for leaving without saying anything or telling you my intentions. And then he's like, blah 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 blah, and then he's like, oh, we're gonna marry you off to this guy, and we see an image of him, and he's a real derp. because it's going to give me like access to their lands, which will let me build like a rail line to the south, and then I'm going to bear a son. And then she's like, nope. She's like, what? And she's like, you totally misread the situation. I came back here because I ran away before, but now I'm telling you for a fact I am leaving. Like, I'm not running away. I'm done. And then she tears off like her fancy dress, which is excellent because it's Lucy Hartfilia. And we're all about that. So, and she's just wearing like a, what are those things that like prop up the breasts? It's like a concierge or something. Anyway, that's all she's wearing. It's pretty great. And then the dad, while Lucy's screaming at her dad, he sees like an image of the mom, and the mom looks super old. But then in like the very next scene, after she says goodbye, she's at her mom's grave. And I don't know if I'm just bad at math, but I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, Lucy's 17. And then it's like the gravesite says Layla Hartfilia 48 to 777, which means her mom died when she was 29 years old. Yeah, that's really not that old. So I wonder how Lucy looked like she might have been like 10 when she died. But doing the math, okay, if she died at 27 or 29. That would have been yeah, that would have been 29. So logically, Lucy would have been like 9, I want to say. That way her mom had her when she was 20. Anyway, who knows? Then as she turns around, the crew's there, and they're like, Lucy! And she's like, oh, hey, what up, fellas? And they're like, oh, hey, you just came to say to your mom's grave. That's great. And we thought you were leaving for good. And she's like, no, I just had to take care of my stuff. And her dad's like looking out the window at where he's at. And then she's like, and they're like, wow, this is a pretty big town you come from. And she's like, oh, this isn't a town. This is my family's garden. And then she points at like this mountain, like all the way across this huge valley. And she's like, my father's estate goes like past that mountain. And they're like stunned. Like literally the three of them, Urza, Gray, and Natsu, are just like standing there quietly and thinking stuff. And then Happy's like, hey, guys, are you okay? They're just like, none of them can even like speak or say anything. Back at the guild, over at the council chamber, Makarov's sleeping, and the council members all kind of freak out, except for our boy. God, what's his fucking name? Anyway, the young guy. And then they wake him up. He's like, oh, sorry, my bad. And like the girl who was fighting Natsu before, dressed up as the crazy old guy, is like giggling. And we find out that they disbanded Phantom Lord, and Jose lost his title of Wizard Saint. But that Fairy Tail was found completely innocent in the whole thing. And then Makarov's homie, who's the 6th seat of Magic Council, Mabo, or Yambo. Let's see, Magic Council member, 3rd seat. Yajima. Anyway, is like got him off the hook, but he's like, hey man, you gotta be careful. Like there's 2 other council members, Mikolo and Org, who really want to disband Fairy Tail because you guys keep causing so many problems for everybody. But I'm gonna come and you're gonna give me ramen and beer next time I come to the guild. And Makarov's like, hell yeah. So then back at the guild, Mary Jane announces that they're taking guild requests again, and then she's chit-chatting with Lucy, and Lucy's talking about how Aquarius was extremely pissed off that she lost the keys and gave her like a good spanking on her bottom. Nice. We then get some argument between Urza and Laxus is being a real asshole, talking about he's going to like kick everyone out of the guild because they're weak, and yelling at Levy, and then people are yelling at him, and Urza's like getting really pissed off, and then Natsu's like, I'll fight you, and he jumps to like attack Laxus, and he just completely dodges the way, and he's like, why would I fight you? You can't even hit me. And he's like, someday I'll take over this guild, and then he wanders off. It's like, what an asshole, what a jerk. And then Urza's like, all right, let's go do a quest. Our team, the 4 of us plus Happy is 5, and it's this quest to subdue something that's going on in another town. And Makarov's on top of his thing, thinking about retirement and drinking a beer. And then Mary Jane's like, hey, you doing okay up there? And it looks like they're at it again. And he's like, what do you mean? And it's like, oh, they destroy. Oh, and he's thinking about all the S rank members. So he's like, Laxus, no, he's a problem. Gilbert's out of the question. Mystagon, he's completely uncommunicative. It's like impossible to have him run this guild. So it leaves Urza, but she's so young because she's like 18 or 19. And then Mary Jane's like, oh, hey, they destroyed another town. And he's like, oh my God, I have fucking function like this. Lord Christ, give me straight. Which leads us into chapter, is this 70? Yeah, 70. Where Lucy's bemoaning the fate of how they go on these quests and then they destroy more than they like help, and so they have to give up all the money and stuff. So then we get like one of these like side anime stories where Mary Jane's like, I got a product just for you, or a quest just for you, and it's to go help this dying theater. And so they go, and all the actors left, and so they put on this play, and it's super adorable. And Ursa's like super excited, but she's a terrible singer, and Lucy's hot, so it works out very well. And then she gets Lyra to sing and play music, so that goes great. And then Natsu's pretending to be a dragon, and Gray's pretending to be a knight, and then they're doing like the opening night performance, and it goes like completely to shit, right? Like the stage is getting destroyed, and Ursa like cuts off all of Lucy's clothes, and then there's like more fighting and more like craziness on stage, and it's just like a complete dump truck fire or garbage fire. But then everyone's loving it in the audience. Like Lucy's like, oh goddamn, I shouldn't have done this. And then she turns around, and the audience is like loving every second of it. And the owner's like, this is so wonderful. So they have to rebuild the theater, but then their show is like sold out for like weeks, and they're doing like 3 shows a week, and everyone's like completely exhausted. Anyway, getting back to the main story somewhat. Lucy is hanging out with Taurus, and they're beating the shit out of some goons somewhere, and then Ursa and Natsu and Gray, and they're just doing this quest in this town, and everything's going well. And they're like, oh, we have a whole day to kill. Let's go use the hot springs. And that's when they see Loki again, and Loki's like, Nani? And he's like, I gotta go, because Lucy's trying to thank him, and then Lucy's like, that guy's a jerk. Why is he being so mean? And Ursa's like, just whatever. Then as they try to get ready for bed, Natsu, Gray, and Ursa start having a pillow fight, and they're like decimating this lodge. And so Lucy's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. So she just starts going wandering, and we get a sweet ass fan service. She's hanging out with Poon, or is that how you, yeah, Poon, P-U-U-N, and it sounds framing, or yeah, that's right. And Happy, and then these 2 jerkwads come up and try to like molest her, and she's like, get the fuck out of here. But then she can't move, and she's like, are they wizards? And at that point, Loki shows up, beats the shit out of him, and he's like, you hurt? And he's like, no, I'm on a quest here to like get rid of these perverts who are trying to like hurt people. So I'm kind of wrapping it up, and she's like, come on, let me get you some food. So they go to a shop to get some food, and Loki's sitting like on the other side of the bar, and she's like, quit being retarded, let's hang out and talk. And then they talk a little bit about, thank you for saving me and all this stuff, and that he thinks of her as a friend. And then she's about to leave, and he grabs her and hugs her, and she's like, yes. And he's like, I don't have much longer to live. And she's like, what? And she's like, huh? And then he starts laughing, and she slaps him and storms off, because she's like, why are you being such an asshole? That's not a good joke. And you see Poon looking at Loki, and you can tell he definitely recognizes him. And if you haven't figured out by now, we're going to find out real quick where Loki comes from. But meanwhile, a few days later, or the next day, they're at Fairy Tale, and Natsu and Gray are all torn up from this pillow fight. Like, they're all wearing bandages and stuff. And then Lucy gives them like this death stare and is like, cut it out. And then they both like, oh, sorry, we're sorry, Lucy. Please forgive us. It's so good. She's got like a Yakuza thing. Hopefully I'll put it in this video. If you're watching it all, you can see what it looks like. It's so good. Anyway, Happy's like, why are you so moody? And she's like, I'm not moody. I'm the same as I always am. And then they both notice that all these girls are coming to Mary Jane asking about Loki and what's going on, and that apparently he went and broke up with all of them. And Lucy's starting to put one and one together, and so she takes off and summons Old Master Chu, who is a Southern Cross constellation, and he is a master of like spirit knowledge. And so she's sitting on her bed waiting for him to find the information, and Happy's like, he's just sleeping. And Lucy's like, no, that's what he does. And then he like comes to, and he's like, aha, I figured it out. And he mentions that Loki once belonged to Karen Lilica, who was a celestial spirit from the Blue Pegasus Guild. And Blue Pegasus Guild is the one where Gray's old friend, I'm trying to remember what his name is, he was from, and well, he wasn't from there, but all of his cronies, like the cat face guy and the girl with the giant mouse. And that she passed away a few years ago. And then she asks another question, but then the celestial spirit is like sleeping, is like thinking again, and Happy's like, oh good, he's thinking about it. And Lucy's like, no, this time he's sleeping. And she's like, how can you tell the difference? And at that point she puts it together, and right as she's putting it together, Gray like pops in, and it's like, Loki left Fairy Tale, and Lucy's like, I know exactly where to find him. So everyone's out looking for him, and she goes to the gravesite of this lady Karen, and calls out Loki for being a celestial spirit. He used to be Leo, the lion of the Lion Palace. And so he's like, you realized it, right? And then she's like, how are you still here if your master died? Because his master was that Karen lady. And he makes some comment about it. His punishment is that he's been out here for 3 years after she died because he's the one who killed her, and so he's not allowed to go back to the celestial world. And then Lucy promises that she'll help him find a way. And so she's like trying to talk to him, like, what? How? I don't believe it. And he's like, it was 3 years ago, so we didn't get the story. And this Karen lady was a real asshole, and like she was beautiful and sexy, and all these guys were trying to hit with her, and she didn't want to deal with it. So she summoned Ares of the Ram Palace and had her deal with it. And then Ares really didn't want to, and she just like mistreated Ares, and Ares would like very timid and be like, she'd have to hang out with all these guys and do whatever like creepy thing they were doing. And the head of the Blue Pegasus Guild, the kind of like fat fairy transsexual guy, or not transsexual, transvestite guy or whatever, he like threatens her at some point. He's like, you better start treating them better. And then I guess Ares at some point came back and was complaining, and Karen is like beating the shit out of her, and is going to punish her by making her stay in the human world for like 7 days, which is like torturous for a celestial spirit. But then she disappears all of a sudden. Karen's like, what the fuck? And then Leo's there, Loki's there. And she's like, how'd you do that? And he's like, I traded places with her because we're not going to put up with this bullshit no more. And then she's like, and he's like, you need to sever your contract with me and Ares, or I'm going to stay here in the human world. You're never going to be able to summon another spirit, because celestial wizards can't summon more than one spirit at a time. And she, time goes by, and it's like 30 days later, and she's freaking out because she can't make money, and she can't do her job, and she's not like a social wizard anymore because she can't do anything. And then she's like kicking him, trying to get him to die. And eventually, like 3 months go by, and he's like, oh, I'm not feeling so bad anymore. I guess I'm becoming accustomed to the human world. And then he finds out that she died on a quest that she went and didn't, she couldn't do it because she doesn't have magic. And so, he didn't like intentionally murder her, but by his actions, she died. And so because of that, he's going to be, he's going to disappear and enter the like celestial world, or he can't return to the celestial world, so he's just going to become part of the stars again. And Lucy's like, no, it's completely unacceptable. I refuse to let you do that. I'm not going to give up on you, so you can't give up. And so she hugs him, and then she's like, I'm going to go back to the celestial world with you. Stop being an asshole. And then she's like, open the gate, and he won't open the gate. And then she's like using all her powers to try to get like a gate open. And then they're talking about guilt and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden this giant gate opens, and Loki's like, well, it can't be, and it's the Celestial Spirit King, and he shows up, and he's a sweet dude, giant guy with armor and like a sweet ass mustache, and he's like, what the hell? And then he talks about how he broke the covenant with mankind and murdered the key holder by his inaction, so he's been denied access to the spirit world. And then Lucy and him and the king start kind of arguing. Mostly Lucy's defending Loki and his actions and everything like that, and everything he did for Ares. And then the Spirit King is just kind of like talking around what she's saying, or like, he's like listening and kind of commenting, but he's talking in a very odd way. And then Loki's screaming stuff. And then Lucy like summons all her spirits to be there, so she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least 6 spirits, which is like ridiculous because again, it's like hard to do that. And she's like yelling, and she's gonna like pass out, but she's staying strong and all this stuff. And finally, the king's like, all right, well, you know what? Maybe we can change the laws. And so he allows Loki to be returned, but instead of being punished by being destroyed, his new thing is that he has to serve Lucy. Because he's like, all's forgiven, and then Loki's like, no, I have to be punished, something. He's like, hey, if you still wish to be punished, serve your friend over there, Lucy. And he's like, all right. So then he starts to fade to go back to like the celestial world, which is, that's fine. Now he's gonna like go there and hang out with the celestial spirits and not be crazy or anything. But then he makes a contract with Lucy right before he goes, and so now she can summon him and whatnot. And that wraps up Volume 9, Fairy Tale. Go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and catch you guys later.